Hello and welcome back. Last but absolutely not least, we have Solar Flare London. I'm a member of the team. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about a bit about yourself and the game you have created?
Yeah, so hello, my name is Max Elmore. I'm the producer and co-designer at Solar Flare London. We're a team of six, graduated from Brunel University London. We all did the same game design course. We got Spike, who's the sound guy and designer. We've got artists Del and Vlad, and two programmers, Mike and Jake. The game we're working on is called Shikari X. It's a 3D sort of boss rush shooter, and it's all inspired by like the 2000s aesthetic. And it's played third-person shooter.
Okay, wonderful. Right, let's see. Let's have a look at the game. And while we're having a look at the game, can you tell us where did the game originate? What was the thought that sparked this project, and how did we get here?
Yeah, so the game started as like a dissertation piece that a few of us worked on for our third year. The whole idea was that we wanted to make something that like we would really want to play ourselves, like the sort of games that we kind of grew up with.
Yeah.
So we realized like a lot of it was kind of like in the PS2, GameCube, or original Xbox era, and so we thought let's try and make a game that kind of pays some like homage to that like era of games. And we all like shooters. We all like platformers with like some puzzle elements. So we play a lot of single player games, and that's kind of where this sort of fusion of genres came to. And we just kind of wanted to make a shooter that, again, sort of pays respects to these sort of 2000s games that we used to play.
Okay, awesome. Well, since it's a mixture of genre, how did you find it to like figure out the target market, or do you think it would be quite niche for this kind of game?
I think the target market is kind of like we've already got like the boss rush games out there, kind of like Shadow of the Colossus, Fury,
Yeah.
Titanfall. So there's a few indie games there. In terms of like nostalgia is quite big, I think, in terms of the industry with like sort of 16-bit sort of side scrollers, sort of low poly games are becoming like more of a thing, and I think that there will be some desire for those 2000s games down the line. So I think while it's not necessarily a market that's been set up at the moment, I think it is one that will be sort of waiting to happen. And in terms of like the whole like shooter platformer sort of games, I mean we've got like Ratchet and Clank, such like Metroid is a bit like that as well. So I think we have got some genre overlap here and there, and I think it kind of targets somewhere in between. But I think we're kind of also trying to push ourselves out a bit and go for a kind of untapped market.
I see, I see. Uh, can you tell me a bit about visuals? Because I'm not sure if that's something that's still in development while it's simplistic.
Yeah,
I personally quite like it. I do
yeah.
like how much things stand out, how clear it is, and it doesn't actually feel unfinished to me personally.
Yeah, so the visuals are, in terms of the models themselves, they're mostly in their sort of the finished state. We are applying like a cell shader to the current visuals as they are. So on our Twitter, we recently just posted like a sort of visual update on how the cell shading is working. So we're still kind of in the process of sort of sorting the lighting with that and trying to apply it across sort of all our levels. But yeah, we're trying to create this sort of somewhat like gameplay focused design in a way. So you'll see the targets that you need to shoot are quite obvious.
Yeah.
The actual interacting with the level is all done like through your gun. So we kind of want to like bake that into the design of the environment, and so like players will know that they can see it and they see like where they can interact with, and that's kind of the sort of the main sort of focus of the design, you could say, the environment.
I see. This game made me quite curious. I have a lot of questions. I have actually three lined up for you. Okay,
Okay.
so let's try to go through these three quickly. I'm just curious about every single part of what I'm about to ask. First one is the lore, because I've seen some almost like murals, paintings. Really curious about it. Why was our protagonist with a flying gun? What's going on with that? Second one is, what's your favorite part of the game? And third one is, what's your least favorite part of the game?
Okay, so in terms of like the lore behind the game, it's kind of you are this like robot that has been acquired by this gun. So the gun is like the main character in this. It's the
Oh,
one who's
okay.
talking. He's the one who's like sort of picked up this, you could say, inanimate object that is this droid like character who's then being controlled.
I see.
Throughout the level. So that's kind of where that comes from. The murals in one of our in our level, we've got is kind of a reference to a lot of the games that we like in terms of like sort of our main inspirations. So we are kind of trying to paint this picture of this like sort of, yeah, like I said, the homage to the 2000s. We really want to sort of like bake that into kind of how the game sort of progresses, even in a narrative way. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much where that is. In terms of the gun, yeah, like I said, it's the gun should be attached to the player's head. That's something we're currently sort of working out. So that is we don't want the gun sort of flying around as much in the final game, but it's kind of something we're iterating on at the moment. We want it that sort of wherever you look, you can shoot. So kind of the gun is attached to the player's head because that's where the player should be looking around mostly. So we kind of want to make that sort of seamless shooting. I guess you could say that again, the least favorite part of the game is that shooting part hasn't been fully nailed down yet.
I see. Okay.
Kind of, yeah, focus on that.
So it's more about just touching up on what's been in development, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely on the character and the gun side of things.
I really enjoy what I'm seeing in terms of gameplay. I would be really excited to find out more lore-wise, like what will be going on in here, and kind of like what's the incentive of going through all of these puzzles, right? However, how clean it is, it makes it a really easy game to like digest, right? I feel like it would be easy to jump into, and it's the puzzles that would add like volume to it, essentially. Have you had people QA test the game? And if so, were there any puzzles that were just the consistent feedback was it's impossible, I don't understand, or were most of them quite clear?
Yeah, so we've got our Discord server sort of set up for testing, so we've had quite a few people play it and give some feedback on it. In terms of the puzzles themselves, I think the whole point of them is meant to be relatively straightforward, like not impossible. Like we don't want the player being stuck up on these puzzles because the main focus of our game are the boss fight sort of at the end. So it's more of like these puzzles are a bit of downtime the player can take and sort of just figure out some fairly like just interactable puzzles that they can again have some fun with. I think the main sort of thing that we received was that because we have different fire modes for the gun, so we have a tether mechanic in the game where you can fire the two sort of projectiles then join stuff together.
Yeah.
And I think players originally, because they didn't have that tutorialized, they're kind of like, what do I sort of do with this? But I think overall, I think the puzzles are quite sort of too like straightforward to pick up, and we've definitely kind of want to like tutorialize how these gun mods work, like sort of very specifically. So yeah, I mean it's been a very useful playtest for us.
Awesome. Do you think the playtest is gonna influence your development choices? For example, is there anything that you were certain you were gonna do one way, but after seeing the feedback, you just feel like you're gonna go a different direction now?
I think trying to hone in on like the 2000 style is something that we want to push like forwards, because one of the questions we had in our playtest is like, does it feel like the sort of genre we're trying to sort of replicate? And I think in some areas it didn't, and I think again with the visuals, I think that was another thing that some people wanted pushed in a certain direction. So I think that's kind of influenced our decision there in terms of how we design the boss fights and how we try and like really capture the genre we're trying to sort of replicate. But I think other than that, I think that's the main points.
Awesome, cool. So you mentioned fixing some stuff for the game, but in terms of future bosses and such, do you have anything like that in the books, like noted what you would like to do, or would you rather focus on polishing up what you have managed to develop so far?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we haven't really mentioned yet that each boss fight is tailored to a specific game genre. So, for
Oh,
instance,
okay.
the one you're currently watching, like the world itself is our light world. It's got like again all the puzzles sort of based around sort of the reflection or refraction of light. But the boss at the end is quite stealth focused, so a bit like Metal Gear, a bit like Splinter Cell, especially in sort of the UI side of things. And again, that was one of the sort of games that we were quite fond of. And the current next world we're developing is more of like a racing world. So the boss itself is the arena is more like a racetrack. It's still like a first-person shooter. It's not like a traditional race, but it is more in terms of the actual style of the fight. It's quite based on speed and sort of going quite fast around the arena.
Right,
And,
right.
we've got we've got a list of these different worlds and bosses that we want to make sort of all lined up, and we've got a timeline, how long it's roughly going to take. So I think
That's...
sort of 2022, like towards the end, I think is when.
Ooh, we're getting some dates. Amazing,
I
amazing.
think towards the end we might have something. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
we can give you that.
Amazing, exciting stuff. I wish you guys best of luck. What are you looking most forward to in that development period? What excites you the most about your own game?
I think just the simple like nature of having these like two different bosses that we can showcase, because we kind of really want to show some difference between the two. So I think having like a nice sort of level select menu that ties like the worlds together, and just being able to showcase like here is our product and here is like again two worlds that act completely different, and two bosses, is that kind of really does it for me. And I think again having this is sort of what we've all worked on. I think we're really proud in that. That's definitely what I'd say.
I must say and give kudos to you guys for putting together such a quite polished, I would say quite polished and well thought out. I think that's what helped it make it polished boss fight. While you might see that it might need some work, or any game devs might see where it could be touched on, I still feel like it gets the gameplay across, right? The core
Yeah.
thing is there, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm captivated a little bit by the boss fight. So you've done it justice, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, we've got an updated version of that on our itch page. So it's a bit more of a polished boss now, in the actual footage being shown. But yeah, I mean, it's something that we're trying to iterate on sort of as we go, while still developing the next content as we go on.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I'll be forwarding the socials right after our chat. What's the biggest thing you learned from the enterprise pathway experience?
I think in terms of like the enterprise has really helped with the business side of things. Like it's definitely again doing this sort of game design course. We've learned a lot about design, a lot about art, a lot about programming. But it is in terms of like knowing the business side is something we've touched on, but actually applying it in terms of running a company has been very useful to us.
Right.
In terms of the actual development side of things, I think scope has been one of the main things that's kind of we've had to focus on and really sort of nail down like what we want to make. At the start of the project, it was the game idea was quite ambitious, and I think it has changed quite a bit since then. So
Right.
I think that's definitely being able to like deal with like rescoping. I think has been very valuable.
So if you were to approach the brief right now, what would be like correcting the scope practice? That like what advice would you give yourself?
I think it's hard because it's not, you don't necessarily know how long it's going to take to develop something. We were basing it on what we had done previously for our dissertation piece, but obviously we weren't making the same quality of game.
Right.
So I think it's definitely aim fairly like reasonable in terms of what content you want to make. Like you don't want to say, oh, we're going to have 3 different bosses.
Yeah.
But definitely aim for sort of that one and really focus on making it look. I think definitely sort of set low, but then also have that room to push further. Like we're currently developing our next world sort of as we're going forward.
Okay. Wonderful.
So yeah.
Nice. Exciting stuff. question that this one is a bit from me, a personal one, because the gun idea I think is really cool. Is it always gonna be the same gun, or are they gonna be different gun characters per se?
Yeah, so it's always going to be the same gun. But
Okay.
we want to tie a personality to that gun. So like, you know, we would have voices down the line. We
Nice.
managed to record some voices for the few of the bosses already, so we've got that in place. But yeah, in terms of the gun, we really want to sort of nail down a script for that. I think main changes that will happen is the different mods you pick up. So, like I mentioned, the teller, we
Okay.
also have like a laser, an
Yeah.
acid, and sort of a blade, bomb and missile to add to that.
Okay,
And the gun
okay.
can change color and adapt based on that. So we kind of want to again tell the narrative through that. So you're powering up as you go throughout the story.
How many different powers are you imagining?
So there's 7 different gun mods.
7
making-
different gun boss.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the last boss that's gonna make you utilize all of the 7 gun modes. That's gonna be great. That's gonna be a blast. Speaking of looking forward to, you mentioned 2022, yeah? I think you said people can find out more on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true.
On Twitter. Any other key socials?
So on Twitter, on Instagram, yeah, at SolarFlare London, and yeah, that's pretty much where you'll find us most. We've got again a Discord for testing, and yeah, I think those are so. And you can check us out on Itch and play the current light demo of Shikari X.
I'll forward those just right after we finish. But before we do, just in case I forget to ask, are you guys by any chance based in London?
We are.
Okay. So where does the solar flare come from?
So it's quite an interesting story.
Yes.
So originally, sort of in our first year, a few of us, again, who are still in the team, worked on a project. We went by the name Sunburn Studios. And it's kind of it was during the summer, Sunburn. We had just seen the film mid-90s where the main character is called Sunburn. So we kind of like had a little joke, called it Sunburn Studios. And then throughout our second year, a lot of the names changed, but having sun in it. So it would be like sunrise, sunset, and
Right.
then sundown was another one. And then kind of going to third year, we're thinking like the natural evolution of that was solar flare. We had quite a few team names, but this was the one we definitely sort of settled on. And again, London is where we're based, so I want to put that in the name.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. Okay. As we finish up, any shout outs, any last maybe tips you would want to give to future game devs or anyone in the chat? Stage is yours for a minute or two.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'd like to shout out the whole team. Done an amazing job on this project, and it's been like an absolute blast working with them. Thanks to our 2 voice actors, Stan and Aria, who have helped out, as well as Chris Cox from Brunel, who saw the project at an early stage, and Mario, who helped us with the whole transfuser application. So yeah, big thanks to those guys.
Wonderful.
And in terms of future advice, I mean, I think it's always worth just making something that you're passionate about. If you like the game idea, you know, you've got passion to push it further. And I think as long as you like what you're making, yeah, you're gonna push it. So you're gonna do well.
There we go, guys. A great pep talk. Okay. Well, that's gonna be that for our talk. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you best of luck with the development of your game, and best of luck with ProtoPlay and Enterprise Pathway, of course. A reminder to you guys that you can always go to the ProtoPlay website to vote for your favorite game, and please do, because there is some amazing games. So if there was any that you really enjoyed, go ahead and vote for it. And if it was Shikari X, then go vote for it. Okay. So thank you for your time, and well, take care.
Thank you.